Hello, everybody. Kenneth Travis here with Next Level Loan Officers. Woo! It's time to get crazy today, boy. We got an amazing guest with us today. And Sean, he will introduce him. Many of you know him. If you don't, you are hidden under a rock somewhere in East Texas. But anyway, check it out. Before we get started, y'all know the routine, man. Like a lot of you loan officers and originators are out there, and you've been listening to our podcast for some time. All I'm asking you to do is to take a moment and share the knowledge. And we share the knowledge by giving 5-star reviews to how Next Level Loan Officers has helped you maybe move the needle. So we just want you to share an aha moment, maybe a golden nugget, a takeaway that you've had, maybe implemented in your business and seen results. The more reviews we get, the more people know about the podcast, the more people know about the podcast, the more we can move the needle for them in their business. There's no more important time than now, guys and ladies, for us to come together as an industry and really educate the originators out there against these big fintech companies that so desperately are trying to take our jobs away. So spread the wealth, give us some love. We'll read your review online and check it out. We're still giving away. Well, we're not giving away. We're charging $1. I mean, come on, like $1, 7-day, $1 trial for our Mortgage Success Academy. It has all of our best stuff, man. Like it's legit. Like, and for $1 to try it, you get to test drive it for $1 for 7 days, no obligation. Like if you don't want to be in, great. We just got some amazing content as you prepare for your 2020 year. It's just a lot of content there for you to really move the business or move the needle in your business, and we want to help you do that. So don't forget to check that out. Without further ado, my main man, Sean Zalmanoff. We call him Sean Z because he's got a jacked up last name. Let's just face it. Like his name is it's not a normal last name. Like, I don't know. He's the only Zalmanoff.
Just because there's nobody in East Texas who has a last name that starts with a Z and it scares you. So if you want to find out where you can get that $1 trial at, all you have to do is go to $1msa.com, and that will take you directly to the checkout page for you.
That was a good cleaning up. I like that, man.
Hey, man,
I missed it, so you cleaned it up for me.
I
love
got
it.
your back.
I love it. Got you, man. Got you.
So hey, without further ado, as KT so gracefully put, if you haven't heard of our guest, you've been living under a rock in East Texas. So we are joined today by Anthony Casa. Anthony from AIME. He has been a driving force in our industry for many years now. Many of you have probably just heard of him in the last few years because of AIME, but Anthony's been in the industry. How many years have you been in the industry, Anthony?
It is so unbelievable. I'm saying this because I'm only 34 years old, but I've been in business for 16 years. So I got in the business when I was 18 years old.
Good for you, man.
But in mortgage years, that's like, I'm like 90 years old.
There you go.
Man, Anthony has done a lot of great things for the industry as a whole. I know everybody hears about it from the broker side, but man, this is about putting originators first. And we're going to talk about that in a bit. But Anthony, since you've been in the business for 115 years already, tell us how you started. I mean, tell us about your broker business and, how that evolved and how this transitioned into AIME so people can really get to know you a little bit better and how you got to this spot.
Yeah. So, let me just give you I'm going to give you a quick summary of like the way I grew up, because I think it's important. It'll inform the audience of why I do the things that I do, because it's really important to understand, like, everybody in our industry is kind of like got this mindset of like whoever they're dealing with is up to something. They got something, that they got an angle. And that's one of the biggest things people ask me. They're like, what's your angle? And I'm like, man, I wish I had a money angle, because I haven't figured that one out. But where I grew up is, I grew up in a family of 5. We had a household income of $16,000 my whole life. So we were like just a very, I would say poor family. So I dropped out of school when I was 13 years old. My dad had a stroke. So at that point in my life, I was working as a dishwasher in a restaurant. And I was the only person in my family that could work full time to help support my family. So I thought I was going to be in the restaurant business my whole life. And then luckily, when I was about 17 years old, I used to go to Bally's gym every morning at 6 o'clock in the morning with this guy who was leading the sales force of a mortgage company. And I'd work out with him in the morning. He thought I was like in my 20s, and I was only 18 or 17 years old at the time. And we developed a relationship. He would come in the pizza shop on his way home from work, get a slice of pizza. We'd talk. We developed this great relationship. And after like a year, he would come up to me every day and be like, man, you work out in the morning, you work 12 hours in that restaurant, you bust your ass, you're making like 40 grand a year. If you came work for me in the mortgage business, I guarantee you'd make hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I heard that enough. I was like, all right, I'm going to give this mortgage thing a go. And now this is back 2003, 2004, when the barrier to entry was basically somebody who's willing to hire you, you were a loan officer.
Yeah.
So I cut my teeth in a call center. That's how I got into business. I was lending tree leads, that whole thing. And the one thing that I've always had is just like, I'm not good at a lot of things, but work is something that's all encompassing for me. So I just worked my butt off. I learned the business. I observed people. I'm very respectful. I listen to everybody. And I spent that first year with a great mentor that, led me to my very first year in the business, making six figures at 18 years old. So as I worked, I got recruited to another big retail lender, and I became like a sales manager and the leader of a sales division at some point. That was I would call that the pre-crisis Anthony Casa. And the pre-crisis Anthony Casa thought that his shit didn't stink, that he knew everything, that customers didn't matter, that relationships didn't matter, because I learned where in a call center. I learned in a place where it was very transactional. It was very make money, don't think about the customer, don't think about the best thing for the customer. And so I was raised by wolves to a degree. And the best thing, the best thing that ever happened to me was the housing crisis, because what happened was I lost everything, like a lot of loan officers out there that went through that. And when you come from nothing and then you get everything, and when I say everything, like my best year prior to the housing crisis, I'm talking about I made like $700,000-800,000, which, as we all know, is a boatload of money. And when you lose it all, multiple cars, houses, you lose the whole thing, and it all goes to shit. You kind of have this realization, and I had a big realization. And I remember one specific moment where I said to myself, you know what, if I can make it all, if I can somehow rebuild this and make it all back, I am never, ever going to take advantage. I will take my customers. Everything will be customer first. I'll focus on relationships. I'll never put myself in a position where the market is driving my success. I want to drive my own success long term. So you go through the housing crisis, and I come out of it. I took a year off, actually. I met my wife. We started having, children, all that stuff. So I took a whole year because you really couldn't close loans in 2008, 2009. And that was great. But when I came back, I said, I'm going to start a mortgage brokerage. And, I just made the decision that when I did start it, and everybody at that point was going retail. So when I came back and I was like, I'm going to start a mortgage brokerage, like I didn't have one person that I knew that was in the mortgage broker channel at that point. Everybody was like, they went retail or were going retail. And then at that time, by the way, that was the 100% best place for a loan officer to be, was at a retail lender, not at a mortgage broker. I tell you that for sure. So, I started Garden State Home Loans, and I had this focus. It was, hey, I'm going to build a business that's focused on relationships. I'm going to make sure we get a 5-star review from every customer. Every person that's going to work for me is going to learn how to educate a consumer. And we're going to be the homeownership experts, not just for consumers, but realtors, for our community, for anybody that wants to talk about homeownership. Like, that's going to be our company. So over the course of, essentially from 2010 through 2015, had a lot of ups and downs, figured out how to run a business, because I hadn't run a whole business before. And that's one thing, we talked a little bit before about, is when you're a broker, you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, you're not just a loan officer. And there's a major learning curve that has to happen there. So there's a lot of give that you have to give in order to be a successful business owner. So I went through that. I learned how to manage people. I learned about, how to manage HR and compliance and all these different things. And I had a lot of ups and downs going through that process. I was not an overnight success. But when it did click finally, when we did get to the point where I started to hire and train salespeople, when I started to really embed myself in the customer experience, meaning I moved out of my big office at one point onto the sales floor. I sat in the middle of everything. There wasn't a customer. I didn't know their name while they were going through the process. I involved myself in everything. It created a culture and an environment where everybody was customer focused. And at that point, we scaled our business massively. 2015 through 2018, we went from a company that was doing, 60, 70 loans a month, which was respectable, to a company that we were doing 300 to 400 units a month, and that's 100 to 150 million dollars in volume per month. And this is a brokerage. This is a straight broker. And it was a great business. But the thing I'm most proud of in our business is that we did this with a team of 30 people. We literally had, when you're talking about $1.5 billion in volume per year, we built a team of people that, because we incentivized them appropriately, because we were customer focused, because we made sure that we set expectations early. Loan officers, we told our loan officers, we don't ask for the minimum. We got to educate people up front so we can get everything up front and we give them the best experience. So because we built a company like that, we were able to scale accordingly. And the thing that I'm most proud of that I was going to say is that when I walked away, there was people that, hey, is Garden State going to survive? Well, here's the deal. If you build a business, a real business, built by people that you trained, by customers that you developed strong relationships, by referral sources you developed strong relationships with, any business should not revolve around one person, okay? That's just like Steve Jobs walks away from Apple. They're not going out of business. And I walked away from Garden State Home Loans, and they didn't miss a beat. They just set a record last month. They're continuing to break records. And I pride myself in that, because that's what I want to help mortgage brokers do. I want to help them build businesses that are sustainable, that don't burn them out, that don't burn their people out, and that serve their community in the way that the homeownership advisor really should serve the community.
So you built one of the largest brokerages in the country. You're financially doing better than most people at that point.
Doing well.
And like, man, I'm going to give this all up, and I'm going to go do something else because I believe in the industry and I see where it's going. And if I don't do this, we're all going to get replaced.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit. There was multiple things that happened to me. There was one. I had done well, and I really had done exceptionally well. And on this go around, I didn't buy 3 cars and multiple houses, and I didn't spend like a raving lunatic. I saved my lunch money. So I wasn't, I didn't even look at my bank account for 2 years. So like I was at a point where, as I started sort of this grassroots initiative, it was more about collaboration, bringing awareness to a certain set of business practices. And all these brokers would come forward, and it was actually this kind of crazy time for me, because like Garden State Home Loans, we're this #1 broker, and we're in New Jersey. We didn't talk to one other broker in the entire, we didn't communicate with any brokers or any loan officers for that matter. We didn't go to events, we didn't go to conferences. We were kind of isolated. And I started talking to these brokers, and I started to see hey, some other business models that were awesome, that hey, why aren't we doing those things? I started to see some other business models where I'm like, man, these guys are really, they need to develop a business model. They need to develop a value proposition. And the more engaged I got with it, the more people that were coming to me and asking me for, guidance, assistance in their business, not just in, around the grassroots topics that we were talking about. And I couldn't say no. And it kind of sucked me in, to be honest with you, because I didn't expect this to happen. I was never thinking, hey, Anthony's leaving Garden State Home Loans. I'm going to show you there's not one person that would ever be able to say that Anthony would ever leave Garden State Home Loans. I work 20 hours a day there, and people thought I was going to die there. But I fell in love with this whole, helping other people. And, there wasn't a money angle on it. It was really just understanding that there's a massively underserved community of loan originators that need some guidance. They don't have a leader. They don't have training. They don't have guidance. And I felt like at that point in my life, and I still feel this way now, that I was best positioned to do it. And I think the other thing I looked at is I realized that the task and the things that needed to happen were so big, and the effort would be so much, that I just truly believe that no other human being would make the sacrifices to do it. So I said, you know what, I'm going to give it a go, and I'm going to go all in. At that time, I said I was going to go all in for a year. Then I realized that this wasn't a year thing. That's when I sold Garden State Home Loans.
Hot drop. We're done.
See you.
See you guys. Man, it's just that's a pretty inspiring story, and just to hear how how the market crashed and you kind of built that back up, man, that's amazing. And we've been in business about the same amount of time. I got in February of 2003, and I'd always been a broker. Like I was a broker for the longest time, and became a mini correspondent lender. Matter of fact, the partner and I were Texas Capital's first correspondent lender.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and it was amazing. It was a great time. And anyway, so I just remember, man. I remember this, dude. I remember being on an island as a broker, as a mini correspondent lender. I had 2 warehouse lines for, I think they were $2 million a piece, and like it was a big model. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But dude, and from like it was like 2010, maybe 9, but really 2010 through 2015, so much of the industry's compliance had changed, right?
Yep.
Everybody, you had the CFPB that was rolling out. Everybody was scared to death about the compliance piece of our industry, where it was going. And man, I felt like I was one of the last Mohicans, man. Like, in the world. Like there's nobody who was a broker. Like it was crazy. They were all leaving. But I do remember like being in that model, for me at least, and it was all scalability. I was working with 5 different investors with 5 different sets of overlays. Clients, it was a shit show. Like,
it was. I'm telling you right now, that era of 2010 to 2014, 15, it was a shit show.
Oh yeah, it was rough. And man, I just got to a point where I was like, man, if I had one process, one system, and I could still be a broker and still broker loans and do these things, man, if I could have that, like I would do that. And I ended up, moving and been with that company ever since. And so, and I'm not plugging my company by any means, but that was a move that I made. And now that the broker world's coming back, it's like, shit, man, I know how to scale.
Yeah.
But the question I have for you that kind of may benefit someone listening to this is, dude, you got a servant's heart, man. You're a lot like us. Like we're cut from the same cloth. Like I feel like Next Level, everything you say, man, about like, I don't know where the money's at, because like we give way more value than we take in payment. We don't this isn't our main thing. We're in the trenches.
True.
Yeah, we're in the trenches. We're really, we have our own mortgage companies, and the Next Level it's kind of been a hobby, right? But it's so much fun seeing us be able to help people change their lives and get clarity and, see their blind spots and all of that. And there may be some compensation there in the future, but this was a long-term play that, implementing Next Level anyway, but we've enjoyed doing it. It's been so much fun. But helping other people. And I know that's what you're about. And it's not really about bankers versus brokers with you.
It's not.
And you said something to me that just really, dude, I loved it. You said that loan originators are better. You said that. And I thought, man, that's what's up. And I love
that's what I actually believe is I believe the local community loan originator is extremely important to successful home ownership. And right now, over the last, one of the things I monitor is homeownership rates are the lowest they've been right now since the housing crisis or the housing crash. And the reason why is because, the direct to consumer, the fintech lender has taken market share, and they don't try to help people get qualified. The way it works is like you submit your Rocket application, you come through, you fit the box, or you don't. And when you don't, you get disqualified, and that's it. We all know as loan originators, I spent 1/5 of my time talking to clients that we're not going to close on loan for 2 years, meaning credit repair. Hey, you got to save this much money. Hey, you got to file your tax returns, Mr. Self-Employed Borrower. Like I would literally take, a borrower, and I put them together and, put them hey, we'll check in 3 months. I put it on the calendar. And listen, you amortize what, as a broker, we were only able to make X amount of dollars, 2 3/4 was our max comp. So let's just hypothetically say that's what we make eventually we do a loan for that person. You break down on an hourly basis, we're like less than minimum wage. But like, to me, it was understanding that like, hey, that guy's living in my community. When he does buy a house, he's going to be qualified. He's going to be educated. He's going to appreciate his home because he's going to know what he had to put in to get it. So, I guess, that's why I look at the local originator. Their value is so much more than the, delivery of a mortgage. It's the education that's around it. So it really is, that's the value proposition. So I see where the market's going, and I see Amazon, I see Zillow, I see Quicken, I see the moves that are being made. And like, to me, it really comes down to, I represent mortgage brokers. So that's where I spend 100% of my energy and time. But everything I say is very applicable or most of what I say is applicable to the local loan originator that works for in multiple channels, which is, man, like we got to do a better job presenting our value proposition. We got to out communicate these people. We got to stay in front of our past customers. We have to, get out of our comfort zone. We got to get out of our comfort zone. So, it is applicable.
Yeah. I'm excited to hear, you say these things because but there's just there's chatter out there, and sometimes people misunderstand, I think, what you represent. And I've talked to people that, that know you, and they're like, "Oh man, Anthony's cool, man. Like he's about the originator." And I'm like, "Yeah, I think he is." And even with us inside Next Level, Anthony, it's like we're neutral too, like we don't we've got broker clients and we have banking clients and we serve both of them.
Yeah, but the thing is, this is what I tell people is this is like, I'm for the loan of our name of our organization is Association of Independent Mortgage Experts. So, I'm for the originator. So people have questioned me on this. Like broker owners have questioned me on this. Like, hey man, like some of the stuff you're doing, like you're making it so easy for a loan originator to be a broker. Like, am I going to lose my guys? And I tell them, you got to create a value proposition for these guys. It's your job as the business owner to create a value proposition that is impactful. You have to assume that at some point it will be so easy for one man to operate with technology. There's going to be advancements that allow that loan originator to be a one man and get the same thing he could get if he worked for a company. That's why retail LOs have been coming to the broker channels. The playing field's been leveled in some areas.
Yeah.
So I tell the broker owners, like, you got to focus on your value proposition. You have to understand, I am focused on the loan originator. I'm not focused on any layer above loan originator. So yes, you're a mortgage broker. And again, I'm focused on growing the broker channel, but you as a broker owner, it's your job to create a value proposition. It's my job to represent the loan originators. So, understand so bankers, they're not my audience, but a loan originator that works for them, that's somebody that's applicable.
Yeah, man, I love this conversation. And this is the challenge that we have sometimes with some of our students is a lot of our broker clients will come to us and their number one challenge, their number one thing is scalability.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, you guys got to invest. You got to be willing to invest back into your platform. You got to invest in your processes and systems, your value proposition. What are you doing to provide value to these originators that you have falling under that umbrella? How do you do that? Right? It's a little bit different with everybody, but that seems to be the topic of conversation on that broker side. Is how do we scale this stuff? And it's really around team building and using technology and embrace it and really, knowing your numbers and getting clear on what the hell you want, So,
you're right. I'm telling you, you nail everything I say all the time, which is it starts with I talk to people about team building is so the reason why Garden State Home Loans became Garden State Home Loans, not one employee that worked for Garden State Home Loans, okay? Not one employee up until from 2015, 2017 was an employee that had been trained the business from another company. We hired and trained everybody. We developed the number 2 LO, the number 1 purchase LO there today is a kid that we recruited him out of St. Joe's University. When he graduated, he started right out of college. He sat right next to me. He was my LOA. He couldn't write it. He couldn't hit send on an email without me reviewing the email. I literally, for a year, micromanaged this guy, beat this guy to a pulp on how to communicate, how to go to realtor out, everything. Now the guy's closing 25 loans a month. And when I tell people that, they're like, 25 loans a month in purchase, I'm like, yeah, it's possible. Yeah. It is possible. But you got to, how many realtors are you call? How many new realtors are you calling a day? How many presentations are you doing? What is your presentation? The whole thing with scalability is understanding that you got to delegate and you got to get at, salespeople need to do sales. Fulfillment needs to do fulfillment. So I built a cycle that said once the application was complete, the process took over. Fulfillment took over. Personalized experience all the way along the way. We're owning the process. But Mr. LO, you got to focus on your realtors and you got to focus on creating a value proposition for them that supports their business. And then on the other side of it, you got to be calling new realtors because right now there is a lot of urgency because Quicken and Zillow, all these companies are making big splashes. And my whole thing is that we don't have time. They're gonna, just so you understand, State Farm Quicken deal, that's gonna take customers out of the ecosystem. Mm-hmm. TD Ameritrade just got acquired by Charles Schwab. Charles Schwab has a deal with Quicken. That's going to take customers out of the ecosystem. When I see these things, you have to understand, you got one big circle of market share. And every single time one of these captive relationships happen, like builders, do LOs compete for builders business? No, because the builders captivate those clients. They put incentives in place to block out the competition. So every single time these deals happen and the economics are not something we can compete on, meaning, hey, State Farm and Quicken have done a partnership. Your homeowner's insurance premium is free this year. They don't care. They're getting this huge commission on the mortgage side. So all of a sudden, consumers are not shopping around. They're not understanding that it's a facade. So like for me as a leader of the broker channel, I have to educate the loan originators on educating the consumers, but I also have to spend a lot of time saying, hey man, the realtors aren't doing their job. You got to go kick them in the butt, and you got to do what I'm doing for you and with you for them, because they don't have a leader that's looking out for them. And it's a lot of work, and half the people don't want to hear what I have to say because it's not comfortable, and it's not, they don't think it's practical. And they're like, hey, Anthony, you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you can do it, but I can't. I'm like, dude, you can do in your 30-hour work week or 40-hour work week, whatever it is, a lot more than you're doing today. It's just a matter of believing in yourself and getting that confidence back. So
I always tell originators all the time. Man, loan officers love growth. They love it. They love making more money. They love, closing more deals, but they don't like the path.
They don't like the work.
And that's the thing I struggle with, to me, because I am for the loan originator. But what I struggle with is, believe me, there's a lot of, I have some guys here this week, loan originators that are just, they're retail guys that are just, they're superstars. And when I go through their business model and everything, like they have things that they can get better at, but they're hustlers. But then I'll sit there and I'll talk to some loan originators. And I had a group in here last week where the guy says to me, yeah, they're thinking about becoming a broker, and, they see the opportunity. I was like, all right, let's go through your volume. And the one guy's like, I do 3 to 4 units a month. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, so listen, man, here's the deal. We're in a refi boom, okay? I can go to Whole Foods down the street, and while I'm buying my fruit salad, I'll pick up 3 to 4 clients. Like if you're telling me in this market you're doing 3 to 4 deals, you got a serious problem, because in a year from now when rates are a point higher, you're not going to be doing any deals. So like I sat there, I'm like, what's your work schedule? How many calls you're making? And you sit there, and the problem is what the system has done to these loan originators is they basically said this: it's been a race to pay these guys the most, which means the companies make the least. So, what that means is that when you have a situation where the loan officer's making all the money, you can't give them anything. I mean, like there's no money left over to create a value proposition as a business for that loan officer. So there's no marketing, there's no training, there's no education, there's none of this going on. Basically, it's like, hey, hey, go out and get us clients and we'll close those deals, and that's it. But there's no investment in that loan officer to make him better, even just to motivate him in any way. So, that's not good. And like for the broker channel, because these are all independent entrepreneurs that had no leadership at all and nobody talking to them for a very long time, for some of them, it's been a positive to have me, there. And for some people, they're like, I'm self-employed. I make a good living, and that's great. And I just look at it and say, you can make a great living in this industry and really be doing nothing. And that's kind of the part that I say, those guys might not be able to be around for very long.
So ladies and gentlemen, one of the things that is a theme that keeps coming up here today, and I just want to tie a big bow on it so you can hear it loud and clear, is we're talking about building a brand. And so as a loan officer, I mean, one of the number one and first things that we teach inside of Next Level is building your brand. So you have to be able to take your cord and plug it in anywhere and be able to run your business and do your thing. And so, Anthony's talking about he has brokers that sometimes come to him, these owners, and like, man, you're making it easy for my guys to leave. And it's not about making it easy for somebody to leave or not. It's about being able to make sure that in case that shingle's not there for you to work underneath tomorrow, or something changes in the industry, that you can still take care of yourself, take care of your family, and help your community. And you have to have a brand in order to do that. And I mean, there's plenty of places that brokers and bankers can plug into. There's plenty of organizations out there. There's organizations that in the broker world that have been around for decades longer than what AIME's been around for. but there's nobody that's built the brand like Anthony has to be able to help people and help loan originators, to help everybody else in our communities do the things that you're able to do right now.
I think that's a really important point. Like, honestly, I don't think you could stress something more. Gary Vee said this at our, he was our keynote at AIME Fuse, and it was just it's so truthful. And for some people, it's so painful. But if you just did a case study on me and said, how in the hell did this guy get to this point where like he's he's meeting with the CEOs of every retail lender and Fannie and Freddie, and like, how did he get to this point in a 2-year period of time? And like, if you look at it, it's like, I took social media and I made it my communication platform. I said, I'm going to out communicate everybody on social media. Before this happened, just so you know, I didn't even have a social media account on any platform. So I literally used social media and I said, because I have no way to sit there and communicate to 40,000 people across the country. I'm just going to communicate as many are on this platform as possible, and just massive repetitiveness, and just, like, no matter what anybody tried to attack me with, I just continued to focus on out messaging people. And, think about that in a different context, is like, in your community, how are you communicating to your customers? Because if it's simply, some surface level, hey, flyers at, open houses and stuff, that's not going to work. You gotta be on social. You gotta be talking to your realtors. You gotta be talking to your customers. You gotta be talking to people that are not homeowners now that might be homeowners in 5 years. But you gotta out communicate everybody.
Yes. Yes, you do.
Man, we could go on for like another hour. Like, I'm just, I so badly want to talk about scalability inside the world of originators, but we just don't have time for it today.
I get it.
Yeah, we could just
we'll do it another time.
Yeah. Man, I love the language, man. Like, our language is so similar, and our paths are so similar, man. I grew up poor. We weren't poor. We were I couldn't afford the OR. We were just PO. So there were 8 of us growing up. So it's just inspiring to hear your story, man. And really, man, we really enjoyed having you on today.
Well, I appreciate it. I really do. And I love what you guys are doing. I love the mission. I've heard nothing like I said before we got on the air. I knew of you guys from almost the minute that I started doing what I was doing, because I had so many people say, man, those guys got the same focus as you. Like, they have the same mission as you, because people can identify mission. People can identify where your heart is. So like, I can tell you that in all of my time, there's only probably a handful of people where people are like, yo, you need to be synced up with those guys or those people, because they are like you. They care about this audience. So, for me, when you guys had reached out, it was like, I told my team, I was like, I want to connect with those guys. I didn't want to harass you, because I know you guys you are doing what you're doing. But I can tell you that you are mission focused. I know you're purpose focused. And I can tell you that every loan officer that I've communicated with that's been part of your platform has been a raving fan.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And we feel the same way about
you. You can keep on going, Anthony.
Yeah.
Hey, we really appreciate you joining us today. And it was awesome to hear your story. There's many people who just don't know where you came from. I knew the story of Garden State. I didn't know how you grew up, and that's appreciate you, man.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you guys. I'm looking forward to hopefully future collaboration. Like we said,
do it again.
We're gonna continue to stay in touch, and the goal is to help the local loan originator build their business, scale their business, and be successful for many, many years to come.
Good stuff. Close us out, Sean.
Friends, just in case you forgot to at the beginning of this podcast, give us that 5-star review. Now's your opportunity to go do that on your favorite listening channel. If you're looking to find out where we're going to be next, you can go to loanofficerevents.com and find out when our next event is. Don't wait for us to come to you. They make planes. You can fly anywhere. And we would love to see you there. You can also download our app to hear this podcast and all the others that we've recorded. You just text the word next level to 36260. Anthony, Kenneth, I appreciate you both.
Yeah, one more thing, Anthony, if somebody wants to see you, I mean, you guys have events coming up.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll be in Irvine, California for AIME Activate on March 5th. And that's going to be a big event. And we'll also be in Miami, Florida at the Miami Convention Center on May 14th. Our friend Barry will be joining us there. So looking forward to anybody. You know, listen, our events, this isn't broker only. Come out. If you're a loan originator, we're not going to, we're not going to make you drink the Kool-Aid. We're not going to beat you to death. We just, this is all about collaboration and getting better, very similar to what Next Level is doing. So there's no us versus them. It's all about us. And if you're in the audience, you're one of us. So love to have anybody out there.
Yeah, and if we're
what's the best
sitting out
way
there,
for someone to get in contact with AIME if they want to find out more about your team and what's going on?
I would tell them the best thing they could do is follow AIME National on Facebook, the Association of Independent Mortgage Experts on Facebook. That's like our #1 communication platform. And the number 2 thing is, I would say, our social media group is Brokers Are Better, is a social media group on Facebook. So like those are our 2 communication platforms. So feel free to, reach out and join.
And hey, one more thing. Any of you knuckleheads out there listening, you're like, when are you going to come to my town? When are you going to come see me in my city? There's these things called planes. You get on them and you fly to Irvine, California, or Florida, or wherever Next Level is going to be next, or AIME. So I like to put that out there because I get a lot of that communication. I'm like, really? Invest in yourself. That's the only way you're going to grow.
That's exactly right. I have yet to have somebody tell me that they've come to an event. I'm sure it's the same thing at Next Level that says that this wasn't 110% worth my time, my money, and my energy.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Peace out. We'll see you next time. You have an amazing day, week. Talk to you soon.
See y'all.